As with braking, weight transfer is an extremely important aspect of making a rally car turn. Simply turning the steering wheel does not guarantee that the car will move in the desired direction. As a driver, you must ensure that the weight is transferred to the correct place at the correct time. In general, the weight should be transferred to the outside front wheel relative to the direction of the corner. Braking places the weight of the car over the front wheels, but other factors should be considered, such as the current attitude of the car and the characteristics of the road. The current attitude of the car will vary depending on the section of road ahead. 2 corners in the same direction will mean that the weight will already be in the correct place to take the second corner after the first. With 2 corners in opposite directions, you will have to make sure that the weight is transferred to the other front wheel after the first corner before the car will change direction for the second. The rate at which the weight transfers in any direction is dependent on the surface, the available grip, and the setup of the car. In sequences of corners that change direction, you can use the pendulum effect to help the car change direction from one corner to the next. Crests, jumps, dips and other obstacles can all destabilize the car and stop you from transferring the weight to the correct wheel, and so these factors need to be taken into account. Making sure that the weight is transferred to the correct place at the right time is one of the most important aspects of rally driving, so make sure you keep this in mind at all times. There is a common misconception that to drive a rally car quickly, you need to wrestle the steering wheel one way, then the other, as much as possible. When you turn the steering wheel, you are transferring the weight of the car to the wheels on the side where it's needed to load the suspension and provide traction for turning. If you rapidly move the weight from one side to the other, it is likely to destabilize the car, making it difficult to control. Continuing the soaring action on the steering wheel will progressively make the situation worse until either a crash or a spin has occurred. When cornering or making corrections to the steering, you should apply the minimum amount of steering necessary. In conjunction with other techniques, such as left foot braking to induce oversteer, the amount of steering input necessary may be considerably lower than would be required for the same angle corner in a road car. As well as keeping the car as stable as possible, using the minimum amount of steering takes the least time to apply and then remove. Consider a situation where the car unexpectedly and significantly oversteers. If you were to apply a lot of opposite lock, it may correct the situation. However, the rear wheels may suddenly grip, snapping the car out of oversteer, and you may have to rapidly unwind the opposite lock in order to prevent the car from transferring into oversteer in the other direction. Excessive steering lock would only serve to make this situation more difficult to control. So remember, always try to use the minimum amount of steering input possible in conjunction with other techniques to make sure the car remains as stable as possible. The handbrake turn is used in rallying more than in any other form of motorsport. The aim of performing a handbrake turn is to get the car to dramatically oversteer at relatively low speed, which enables a tighter turn to be taken than using the steering axis of the wheels only. Weight shift is still required, and you must use the momentum of changing direction with the steering in conjunction with the handbrake to get the rear of the car to slide. The handbrake can also be used to induce oversteer in a more open corner if there is insufficient traction on the front wheels to get the car to turn in at the required point. Remember, handbrake turns are used to navigate very tight corners such as hairpins that would be difficult or slow to drive around normally. So listen out for these types of corners in the pace notes. Pendulum turns are probably the most advanced technique used in rally driving. They are essentially the culmination of all the techniques we have described in these guides. They are used specifically to prevent the car from understeering on loose surfaces when approaching sharp turns or hairpins at relatively high speed. The technique works by using the momentum of the rear of the car swinging from one direction to the other. It must be timed correctly so that the final weight shift happens at the turning point for a corner. Modern rally teams put a lot of effort into reducing their car's tendency to understeer, so pendulum turns are not used as much in today's cars as they were with the classics. In order to explain the process, here are the inputs you should make and the effect it will have on the car at each point during a pendulum turn. In this example, the car is travelling at high speed on a straight piece of gravel road and has to make a 90-degree turn. As you arrive at the braking point, you get hard on the brakes to slow the car down and shift the weight of the car forward. With increased grip on the front wheels, flick the steering wheel in the opposite direction of the corner. The reduced weight over the rear wheels will put the car into oversteer, with the rear of the car stepping out and the front of the car pointing away from the corner. You can now increase your throttle input, reduce your braking input and steer in the direction of the corner before modulating all three inputs. This allows you to maintain the oversteer until the point at which the car needs to turn in for the corner. It's worth noting that the lateral grip of the tyre combined with some braking input causes the car to rapidly decelerate as if braking hard in a straight line. Now release the brake pedal and feather the throttle. This will snap the car out of oversteer in the initial direction. The momentum of the weight shift of the rear of the car, coupled with the acceleration and steering input, will initiate oversteer in the direction of the corner. At the turning point, apply full throttle and move the steering wheel in the same direction as the rear of the car. This is the pendulum part. You want the car to oversteer in the direction of the corner to help eliminate understeer. Now feather the throttle as the car is switching from oversteer one way to the other. You must move the steering wheel in the same direction in order to catch the second slide. You will now have oversteer through the corner. Keep feathering the throttle and control the oversteer with opposite lock. A perfect Scandinavian flick will see you hitting the apex and accelerating through the corner exit where the car is straight once more. Remember, this is an advanced technique and practice makes perfect. The advantage is that by deliberately using the momentum of the rear of the car, you can actively prevent the car from understeering into a tight corner.